Okay, here we are for Chapter 6, Part 3. Chapter 6, Part 3, the first part, I'm going to install the Data Analysis Tool Pack. I do this, I believe, in a couple videos in the course. Just to show, you could skip over this if you've already done it. This will only be for PC users. The Data Analysis Tool Pack does not come with Excel for Mac. There's an aftermarket add-in that you can get that we actually need for Chapter 8. If you want to go ahead and watch the Chapter 8 videos to see, and I believe the links I put in the course website on how to install the tool pack so that you can go ahead and do what I'm about to do here, you can go ahead and skip ahead to that particular part of Chapter 8 and add the data analysis tool pack if you would like. However, it is not absolutely necessary for this chapter. So if you don't want to deal with it till Chapter 8, you don't need to. You can just skip this part and just use the regression equation as I talked about at the end of video 2, the trend line equation right there. But I am going to show those PC users how to input the data analysis tool pack and use regression in Excel as the book shows us how to do. If I go to data here up at the top and I see data analysis here, that means it's already installed. And I would just click on it. But if you don't have that, you're going to want to go to File, Options, Add-ins, Manage Excel Add-ins here at the bottom. Click Go. Make sure the Analysis Tool Pack is selected. You don't need to select the bottom 3. You can if you want. Won't hurt anything. Analysis Tool Pack is that's Visual Basic included, and Euro currency tools if you happen to need that, or Solver, which is something you would use mainly in an operations or decision science class. But for us, we just need the Analysis Tool Pack at the top. You then hit OK, and Excel will install it. So now if you leave data and go back to data, this data analysis tab should be there. So we're going to go ahead and click on it. And I'm going to bring it down here where I can see it a little better. I apologize if that appears a little small. To be honest, there's not much I could do about that. I'm going to go to regression. Okay, click on regression and click OK. There we have it. So the next thing I'm going to do is input my Y range. In this case, my Y range is sales. And I like to have my labels included. So I'm going to click on labels, and then I'm going to do my X range, which is facings. Okay. The way to remember which is which is the Y range is going to be on the Y-axis. See down here, sales is on the Y-axis, and the X range is going to be the horizontal axis. And so that's another way to remember it. We're going to put our output range at A41. Or actually, the book says A44, so let's go ahead and put A44. And we don't need to worry about all of this down here. We don't need any of that information. We just need basic regression, and we're going to hit OK. And when I scroll down, we should have our regression here. And that's our regression output. Now, multiple R up here is going to be your correlation. It'll match the correlation we did a couple videos ago. If I go back to home, to make it look the same, I'm going to adjust the decimal points, and there it is, 0.83. These are the two numbers we're interested in down here, the intercept and the number of facings, and I'm going to adjust these so they look like the book, negative 0.65 and 1.54. Now, the reason you want these is that they allow you to do predictions, because that's what the whole, you may be wondering, what are we doing all this for? Where are we headed with all this? Well, the magic of, and magic's probably a strong word, but the magic of regression and is we can use two sets of data to predict future values. So moving back up here, So if I have the number of facings, so if I knew that I wanted 4 facings, I could then predict my sales. Because I have this data, we can create an equation that if I have this number of facings, I can predict sales. So you could see how important that might be. So if you had any piece of data that might ultimately predict sales, size of the box, I don't know if that would actually predict sales, amount of money spent on marketing, you could also use that to predict sales. Or anytime you can have one number predict another. And of course, the number that's being predicted here is always going to be your y-axis. Okay? And the number doing the predicting is going to be your x, right there. So we're going to scroll back down, and we're going to create the equation from the regression. So I'm going to create the equation y equals, then we use the top number first, the intercept first, negative 0.65 plus 1.54, which is the number of facings, or the x variable. So I'm going to put the x right after that and hit enter. I'm going to make my column a little wider to make that a little prettier. Now, something you may notice is that equation may look kind of similar. So that's our regression equation. We could scroll back up, and what do you know? It's actually the same as this equation is here. Of course, there's different decimal points, and we have the two numbers flipped. So it's 1.54x minus 0.65, which is the same, actually, as this equation is right here. Those two numbers are switched. So you could enter them in from the regression equation backwards if you wish. It really doesn't matter. So you can do all of this regression to get to this number. So that's why I had us do this number up here on the trend line first, because doing the trend line is a shortcut. Excel allows us to do that shortcut. It's a fairly recent addition to Excel. It's a very powerful addition because it doesn't mean we have to go through this whole step here. But nonetheless, the book shows you, so I wanted to show you. So now let's get to the good stuff. Let's talk about prediction. So the first thing the book wants us to do, I'm on page 139 in the book, is it says find the number of facings. Find the sales if we have one facing of Kellogg's Corn Flakes. So what would our sales be if we have one facing? So we're going to go ahead and plug that into the equation, which the book does on page 140. So I'm going to go y equals, I'm going to do it the same way I have here, negative 0.65 plus 1.54 times 1. Actually, if it's going to be right in Excel, I need to put a multiplication sign. Of course, if you're doing it by hand, you don't need the sign, but in Excel, you do need the multiplication symbol. Okay, so now we're going to calculate that for real. I'm going to use a little trick here so I don't have to retype it. I'm just going to highlight everything from the equal sign on, and then I'm going to paste that in there. You can retype it if you wish and hit enter, and it's going to give me the answer of 0.89. I'm sorry, still on page 139 in the book. So sales are in thousands. So the conclusion we can draw is that if we had one facing of cornflakes, we would have $890. Once again, this is in thousands, so we add those 3 zeros back. $890 in sales. Now, what if, the book then goes on to say, what if we had 3 facings? Well, I'm just going to go back in and change my numbers here. So what if we have 3 facings? It doesn't seem to want to select right now. I apologize for that. My computer is overloaded with all the recording, I believe. Yeah, it seems to be locked up for just a second. My apologies. See if we open that back up, our recorder, see if that wakes it up a little bit. There it is. So I'm going to change the 1 to a 3 in the equation, hit enter, 3.97. I'm going to go ahead and change it in here now that it's letting me as well, just so we saw what we did. So 3.97. which once again in thousands is $3,970, would be our anticipated sales if we had 3 facings. Okay, and if you were to do all of this in a Mac or in a PC for that matter, you don't need to do all the regression stuff. I wanted to show you, to introduce you to it, and because the book did it, but you could just plug those numbers right into this equation. So if you plugged 3 into 1.5, it should be 1.54 after we adjust the significant digits. 1.54 times 3 minus 0.65, you would get the same answer. Okay, that's it for Chapter 6. We will be back for Chapter 7.